All right, so once you have your email address verified, you can then log in to your GitHub account. So we'll go ahead and do that with my demo account here. And this page basically is like a home page. It has all the list of your repositories on the left, as well as, again, a reminder, your GitHub username is this one right here. So mine's called Demo for Us. I have invited this demo account to the repository in question, and when that happens, you'll get an email, something like this. Faraz has invited you to collaborate on this repository, and then when you click this invitation, you can view the invitation, and what that will allow you to do is accept the invitation. So we have accepted the invitation now, and you should now see the repository that you were just invited to on the left sidebar there. All right, so here is the repository page. It's got all the files here. It's called the Conference Diversity Toolkit. Here is also a link to what the website looks like after it's been accessed. So here are all the components of it. The only thing that you really need to work with here is this content folder. So once you click on the content folder, there's chapters. So chapter 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what I'll do now is I'll have a side-by-side view of what the files in the GitHub repository correspond to on the website. So here I've got a bunch of folders and files. And then correspondingly here are all the rendered website pages once we edit these files. So here, this preface is chapter 0. Chapter 1 is this planning. Chapter 2 is this pre. Chapter 3 is conference. Chapter 4 is post. And chapter 5 is next, which currently isn't listed here. So if we want to go into the introduction for chapter 1, we would click on the chapter 1 here folder. You click on the folder, and then you would need to find the introduction file. So here it's right here. It's called introduction, and you can find the name of it just by looking on this address here. So it's conference, then content, then chapter 1 planning, and then the file's called introduction. And here it's the same thing, conference kit, content, chapter 1 planning, and then the introduction file. So once we found the introduction file, we can click on it, and then all the same content that you have here is now available on this GitHub page, and you can edit it simply by clicking this edit this file button, this pencil icon, and that will allow you to edit in this editor here. So the goal is that once you finish editing here, you can then add a comment saying, I changed a few things here, added some clarifications. So you say you want to go add clarification. And once you've done that, you can click this commit changes button, and that will commit this change to the repository. And then in about 2 minutes or so, 2 or 3 minutes, the website will finish being built and rendered, and you will have this change appear down at the bottom. Okay, so while we wait for that change to appear, let me quickly walk you through some key aspects of this editor. So the first thing you need to see is that you can always see what what you write will look like if you click this tab called Preview Changes. So this will be the exact output of what will appear on the website. So here is the editor view, and here is the previewer. Okay, so there's a few things that you need to know about editing in Markdown, and what I will show you now is a Markdown cheat sheet. That's actually super useful when you're trying to learn this new syntax. It's not super different than what you'd expect, but I will show you it now. All right, so here is the Markdown cheat sheet. So just a few things that we need to know about here. The headers. Any headings that you have will start with a hash symbol. So one hash symbol is level 1 heading, which is the biggest. Level 2 heading is slightly smaller. It's called it's got 2 hashes, H2. And then it goes all the way down to H6. So you can have this level 1 heading has 1 hash, but you can go to H2, H3, H4 just by adding the number of hash symbols. Okay, so that's the first thing. So I'll just do level 1 and then level 2 just so you can see what it looks like when you click the preview button. So when you click this preview button, so this is level 1, it's got the biggest, level 2 slightly smaller, level 3, and then you can go crazy and go 6, level 6, and that will be the smallest heading you have. Okay, so it goes all the way from 1 to 6. Now the neat thing here is that if you follow the syntax of having your headers as hashes, what this does is it allows you to create a really nice table of contents automatically. So each of the headings that you do inside your file will show up on the table of contents page on the right for that individual page. So to disambiguate the table of contents on the right, that's for this individual page, but there's also an overall table of contents, for instance, in the whole book or on the whole website. You can collapse all these so that they're not in your way, but I like to have them open sometimes. So that's the first thing in our cheat sheet, the headers. The next thing you want to know about is how to make some emphases. So if I want to have some italic text, I surround my text with single stars. So italic text is shown here. And then you can check how that looks like in the preview page. This is now italic. If I want to do instead bold text, I just surround it by double stars. So bold text looks like this. And when you click on preview, you'll now see that the bold text appears here. So one thing that's slightly different from regular word processors is that Markdown treats single line endings a bit differently. So if you actually want a line break, you'll need to just have a second line break. And that will allow you to have 2 different lines sequentially. Other things that are important: lists. So if you want to make a list, you just need to do this syntax here. So this is the first item in the list, and then second item in the list. And then if you want to make a sublist, you just need to tab 4 times, and then you can say this is a sublist. This is another sublist, and then you can always just go back to the original list here. Okay, and then when we look at the preview, this is what that will look like. That was an unordered list. If you want an ordered list, similar, you just type in 1, first item in the list in the ordered list, second item in the ordered list, etc. So then when you look at the previews, that will become then an ordered list. You can combine ordered lists and unordered lists together as you like. Just make sure you indent and have some spaces between this. If you want to add some images, you can do that using this syntax here. So it's just an exclamation mark and then square brackets, and inside the square brackets is where you would put the alt text. Okay, so alt text is very important. It allows screen readers and various other accessibility tools to access a description of any images that you include here. Okay, so here I'm going to add some alt text, and then I'm just going to embed an image from a comic, let's say XKCD. I'm going to just copy this, a link to that image, and then I can provide a link to it using this round brackets. So I've got exclamation mark indicating that this is a link to something, square brackets with some alt text with a description of the image, and then in round brackets is a link to that image. Now you don't have to have a link. You can also just have an image directly in this repository. To do that, you just need to upload that image to the repository first, and then just access it in the same folder. So let's have a look at how the image will look when we click preview. It will show the image embedded in there, and then if you hover over it, you'll also get the alt text for that image. Okay, so that's images. Links are very similar to images. The only difference is that instead of a exclamation mark, there's no exclamation mark, so you can just go square bracket with some text. So here is a link to this comic, and then provide the link in square brackets, sorry, in round brackets. So square brackets for the text, and then round brackets for the link to the image. Okay, and there we go. Now we have a link to this comic. So at this point, I wouldn't suggest doing too many changes without clicking the commit button. You can do as many commits as you like whenever you finish working, for a few minutes, or anytime you would save in a word processor. You could do this thing. So you added some comments about Markdown and a comic. Okay, and then commit the change. So at this point, I think the change that we did originally would probably will probably have made it onto the website if I could go to it. So the introduction I did of this chapter 1. When I reload this add clarification bullet point that I added before will now show up here. Now in a couple minutes, all this other stuff will show up as well, but of course I'll remove that so that it's not public on the website. So that's it. That's all it is. It's headers, stars for italic, double stars for bold, lists are just stars, ordered lists are 1 dot or 2 dot, that's an ordered list. Images is exclamation mark, square bracket, alt text, and then a link to the image. This is here a way to link to something that's locally available in the repository, but you can also link to images that you find on the web. And links themselves are very similar syntax, except you avoid the exclamation mark that you do for images. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know for Markdown. If you want to get fancy, there's a few other things like block quotes that will produce a line with a quote if you wanted to reference someone, or have a motivational or inspirational quote. You can surround all of your text with a greater than sign, and there's a bunch of other things as well, but not super useful. Like you can have tables as well, or references to different files. But let's just stick to this: headers, emphasis, stars, italics, and bold, lists, unordered lists, images, links, and block quotes. I think with this, you should be able to do most of the, if not all of the editing that you would in a Google Doc or in Microsoft Word. Okay, so I hope that was useful. In our working session, I'll probably go over some of this stuff again, but in particular, we can also look at some more advanced features that you would perhaps want to work with, such as having these drop downs that allow you to hide or tuck away any text or any videos that you have. Also some of these highlighting statements. This is a note, this is another note, a warning, a tip, a caution, and you can sort of mix and match these and put these things together. All right. Okay, thanks everyone. Hope that's helpful and useful, and we'll see you at the working session.